Chase Briscoe wins Pocono. We're going to talk about the Aero. We've got the bracket challenge to go over, and the points situation is really, really interesting as well. So we're going to get into all of that coming up next. What's going on, everybody? Hope you're doing good today. All right, Chase Briscoe, age 30, gets his third win in 4 full NASCAR Cup Series seasons. That puts him at 105 on the all-time list. One more win, and of course, he will be in the top 100, but it does tie him with some current Cup Series drivers. Erik Jones, Austin Cindric, and AJ Allmendinger, and it puts him one win away from tying Ricky Stenhouse Jr. III. So there you go. That is a significant win for him, and he didn't get it the easiest way possible. He did have to save some fuel at the end of this race, and in some ways, Chase Briscoe won this race in spite of himself. Because if you listen to James Small on the radio, unless he was really playing some poker there, and he could have been, we don't know, right? But when Chase Briscoe pulled out of his pits early, it looked like James Small was very upset. So unless he was the best ever poker player or the best ever actor, Chase Briscoe left the pits way too early. Luckily, he was able to save enough fuel. We'll get into why he was able to save enough fuel to win this race here in just a minute. But that's why I say, in spite of himself, he did win this race, because James Small was not very happy when he pulled out of pit road way too early. Didn't think he got enough gas, but at the end of the day, he was able to save that fuel and get that win. Locks him into the playoffs. That's going to make the playoff picture very interesting going forward here for the drivers that haven't won a race, of which we will touch on in just a minute. But he was able to save that fuel for one reason and one reason only. The Aero advantage at Pocono is too great to overcome with this current car. Denny Hamlin could get to the rear bumper, but as soon as he got to that dirty air, he pushed away. Ryan Blaney, who had a much faster car probably than both of them, could get to the bumper of Denny Hamlin, but once he got to the dirty air, he pushed up, couldn't pass him either. So basically, when you got into the top 5, there was not going to be any passes made. Now, obviously, there were some passes back in the back of the field, especially on restarts, but when all of the air is dirty, nobody has an advantage. But when people got out front, the clean air was too much of an advantage compared to the dirty air behind them. Now, this has always been a problem at Pocono. However, with this new next-gen car, since 2022 or whenever it came about, this problem has been exacerbated because of the underneath airflow with the diffuser and the underwing, or the underbody, whatever you would like to call it. It has exacerbated a problem that already existed at Pocono, so this is quite possibly one of the worst tracks for the Aero for this car, so I didn't really expect nothing less, but it was really bad at the end of this race to have basically locked in. You had a train, right? You knew nobody was going to be able to pass. Chase Briscoe was in max save fuel mode, and they still couldn't pass him. So super interesting. NASCAR, I'm not going to beat on about it. NASCAR knows that this is an issue with the car. NASCAR knows they need to fix it. Hopefully they fix it next year. But I'm not going to, I've made how many episodes talking about NASCAR needs to fix the car? NASCAR needs to fix the car. And yes, it's always been hard to pass at Pocono when somebody has clean air, but you were still able to pass at Pocono when somebody had clean air, so it is what it is. Chase Briscoe not the only one who had a good race after winning, however, because Denny Hamlin and Ryan Blaney also having good races, finishing second and third. Good points day for him, especially for Hamlin, who missed that race earlier. Chris Buescher finishing in 4th place, and Chase Elliott just continues his strong season of getting top 5s and top 10s with another 5th place finish, but will it be enough? We're going to talk about that in just a minute. John Hunter Nemechek, a nice solid run for him in the 6th position. Kyle Larson in 7th place. Ryan Preece needed this day because he's right there on that cut line, which we're going to talk about. Brad Keslowski is one I want to talk about here. Brad Keslowski had a really fast race car. Brad Keslowski had control of this race, and through a series of blunders by the crew chief Jeremy Bullins there, it just didn't pan out for him. Now, some of these he stayed calm and was able to overcome, but some of these pit road blunders were seriously bad because the race was on pit road for this one because of the track position racing, because of the Aero advantage we talked about earlier. So giving away spots on pit road or coming to pit road when pit road's not even open, and pitting and continuing to pit even though you know pit road's not open, you would have served no penalty. You would have just been able to go through. Unforgivable mistakes when you have a car as fast as that 6 car, especially when that car could have won the race, and where he sits at in points, he's in a basically win to get in situation. So just a really bad day. Even though he finished in the top 10, was able to recover and get that 9th place finish. You got to say, even though it's a top 10, it was a bad day for Brad Keselowski, because this was a golden opportunity to lock into the playoffs, and they didn't get it done here today. Austin Cindric in 10th there. Alex Bowman from out of nowhere at points in this race, but he ends up in 10th place. Another good run for Josh Berry and the Wood brothers. Erik Jones continuing his good streak of runs with Legacy after their terrible season last year. His teammate finishing just a little bit in front of him, so good overall weekend for Legacy. Ty Gibbs had a good qualifying effort, ends up in 14th, and Daniel Suarez with a 15th place finish. So that's the good race, and even though Brad Keselowski was part of the bad race in the top 10 there, let's talk about who had a worse race than Brad Keselowski and RFK. And there you see Cody Ware, the Mendoza line for bad race, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., SVG, and then Tyler Reddick there. Tyler Reddick in 32nd. Believe it or not, the highest finishing 2311 car, because you see in 36th and 37th are his teammates Bubba Wallace and Riley Herbst. And that's because despite their team owner finishing in 2nd place and having good speed overall for the weekend, these cars as well had good speed. However, they got really aggressive somehow with the brake ducting or whatever they were doing to cool the brakes, or however that was going, and those brakes were exploding. So it pretty much cost him their day. Now, Tyler Reddick's brakes didn't explode, but he went in there and got whatever the issue was, he got it changed out and was able to rejoin the field 2 laps down, was never able to recover from that, and ended up where he ended up at the end of this race. But for 2311 to have that type of speed and not to have anything to show for it, in fact, not even have a car finish above 30th with the speed that all the Toyotas had at this particular track, you got to say, overall, just a bad weekend for 2311. All right, that's good race, bad race. Let's take a look at the regular season points, where William Byron continues to lead at plus 54 over Kyle Larson. Denny Hamlin now at minus 78, minus 79 for Seabell, and minus 80 for Chase Elliott, who is the highest driver that hasn't won a race yet. Which is a good way to pivot into the playoff points here, where you see if the playoffs started today, Kyle Larson would be your leader with the 3 wins and all the bonus points that he's got. But if you slide down here to the cut line, you see Chase Elliott is only 4 spots above the cut line. So if 5 more people win, 5 more people that are below Chase Elliott in points win a race, that is going to bump Chase Elliott out of the playoffs. And when you look at this list right here, it is more than possible for that to happen. You've got Ty Gibbs and Carson Hocevar, guys that could break through at any moment and get a win. Michael McDowell on super speedways and road courses, you have to factor him in. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., he's going to show up every once in a while in a year and win a race. And then there's other guys that are just super consistent, and their win is coming, like a Ryan Preece and AJ Allmendinger and Erik Jones. Any of those guys can steal a win at any point in the season. Kyle Busch, we don't even need to mention him. If he can put a clean race together, he is going to be a threat to win a race. Alex Bowman, I mean, just look at the list right there. And Chase Elliott, who currently sits 5th in regular season points, if a few more drivers win, it is going to be really critical here if Chase Elliott and the 9 team can't get a win soon. So there you go. If that doesn't illustrate how crazy the playoff system can be, I don't know what can. The man sitting 5th in points is only 5 or 6 drivers winning a race away from being in trouble at the cut line, which is just insane, but it's the drama that NASCAR wants. Speaking of drama, TNT knows drama, and they've got the bracket challenge. So let's look at the bracket challenge seedings that I found on racer.com. I don't understand the bracket challenge. I don't know what purpose it serves. I don't know what value it adds to fans. If you do pick a perfect bracket, which you have a better chance of being struck by lightning than picking a perfect bracket, but a chip and a prayer, you know what I mean? So anyway, I'm going to cover it anyway because it's something that people care about. I'm not one of them, but yeah, I'm going to cover it here. Denny Hamlin versus Ty Dillon in round 1. Chase Briscoe versus Noah Gragson. Chris Buescher versus Todd Gilliland. Christopher Bell versus Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Chase Elliott versus Austin Dillon. Stone Cold Lead Pipe Lock. Austin Dillon advances there. Ty Gibbs versus Justin Haley. Ryan Blaney versus Carson Hocevar. Alex Bowman versus Joey Logano. Bubba Wallace versus Daniel Suarez. And the rest of round 1 is thus Kyle Larson versus Tyler Reddick, Michael McDowell versus AJ Allmendinger, John Hunter Nemechek versus Josh Berry, Ross Chastain versus Erik Jones, Zane Smith versus Austin Cindric, Ryan Preece versus William Byron, and in a crazy twist of fate, the 2 guys that for a long time had a good rivalry going, Kyle Busch versus Brad Keselowski, the number 16 and 17 seeds. That's probably the one that DraftKings is responsible for all this essentially. is probably going to profit off of the most. Kyle Busch versus Brad Keselowski. Who you got? Yeah, this car needs to be fixed, especially for Pocono. I don't know any other thing you can really say about this race other than congratulations on Joe Gibbs Racing. But that's going to do it for me on this one. I appreciate y'all hanging out this long. Until the next one, thanks for your time. Peace.